and welcome to this, our May the 3rd, our TemTeam Cup May edition. Man, I can speak, honest. I'm Quarter, and we will be hopping straight into our games between Trotter and Axolotus. I actually haven't had a lot of a chance to see Axolotus. This is going to be really interesting. So, as we tune into both of our contestants right here, so Axolotus is one of our contestants from Warek, and I'm interested in seeing what they're bringing here. We do see a Crystal Deluge-style aggro team with two, as a matter of fact, separate sources for that. Trot has brought the actual fire, though, with Nature Koish Mastion. That is unbelievable, and not what I expected from our lad. Very interesting to see. This is looking to be pretty exciting. Obviously, the Volphy ban makes a lot of sense, given there's a bunch of things that are weak to both Earth and Nature on Trot's side. I can't think of very many things that aren't. The Nagai's ban is always something that you can expect to see if you're facing into an aggro team. This is actually a weird mirror match. Both of these teams individually are pretty niche, but they're both rocking the same niche. We have a Doro Mudrid and another Mental on both of these. We have a Koish on both of these, and then things that synergize with that effectively. We have our Lava Wave, we have our various others here. So we have Nature Koish and Hedjin versus an Adoro Mouflank lead. This is beautiful to see. That's actually quite vibrant. Both of these look like they're basically like they're slotting into place their responses respectively, right? Kinu fits beautifully into that for the Emanip, for the Adoro, and then in the meantime, literally either. Actually, okay, so we would not expect microwave synergy here. There's actually nothing for microwave synergy, so it's likely Trot's running a plasma beam, but we could also very easily see a Calibus hop into that spot. Never mind, we'll see a Yukama, though. Second bang going onto the Calibus is very good for Axolotus. Doesn't have a lot to necessarily counter that, and it's just juicy, especially if the Barnshee gets countered on, yeah, it gets banned on Axolotus' side, but no, we do see the Kinu ban. Always a wise ban if you can get it off. Definitely a powerful thing to see there. Interesting to see indeed. As we see the Adoro picked up from Trotter's side alongside the Yukama, meaning that we get, of course, the Yukadoro Water Cannon of Doom alongside the Osiara Barnshee. That's a ton of high octane pressure against Trot with what could potentially be another Airspec Henfen. We've seen a lot of like max speed, max special attack Barnshees running around lately, alongside, of course, the ever amazing horse. Osiara with Hurry Ward obviously is still a terror in the night, and just an auto cannon of water priority with one of the highest base special attacks in the game. I think the highest base special attack in the game? Yeah, I think it's that. In the meantime, though, we see a Mudrid as the final pickup on Trot's side. Very good into some of what Axolotus picks. And with the Mudrid picked up on Axolotus' side, the mirror is going to be interesting here. Let's go into our first round between Trot and Axolotus. So, we see the Adoro out on one side, alongside the Mouflank. We see the Nature Koish and the Hedjin on the other side. Nature Koish is just going to... Okay, so my concern here is that the Nature Koish probably still needs to vanish, because Virulent Gust is something, and Chihiro could just hop in there. Nice OCR name, incidentally. Likewise, however, the Yukama could just hop in on the other side. I don't actually expect to see that, though. We actually see a cage go down from the Mouflank, so let's see if that winds up influencing anything here. He does try to swap the Nature Koish, and it does get caught out. It's gonna get immediately obliterated by a Virulent Gust. It's actually not enough to take it down, but now Trot's going to be hard-pressed to actually gain some utility out of that, especially given the burn is the only reason why it stayed alive. That minus 30% damage there really helping Trot inside this. Means he can get an extra move out from the Nature Koish and not entirely whiff this opener. This is important. So, the Water Cutting Lily is going to be coming down here. It's going to be landing into the Mouflank, obviously, because that's the thing that doesn't resist it. Hellfire comes out alongside that. That's reasonable spreading, and it does mean that we get some damage back onto Lucy here, meaning that it's not just like a whiff completely onto that. However, Nature Koish, that was a lot of damage into that for very little return. A very good cage out of Axolotus. Always something you want to watch out for when you see a Mouflank first picked is it Hurrywart? Is it going to try to cage trap me? It can be a hard thing to gauge. So we see the Ouroboros from Trot hit the board as well. Neron's here. Happy to say hi to Uro there. We got some fun names on the board here. Always nice to see innovative name building. Outside of that, though, looking in the background, we still have a Barnshee that can't really afford to come in, but a Mudrid that's looking a bit more free. So the Plasma Beam comes down again on the Ouroboros alongside the Energy Manipulation for the move flank, taking down the move flank and burning the Ouroboros. These are both valuable things to see. That second Beta Burst comes down, and thanks to the burn, it does not bring Flash into the red, keeping it just above 30%. And with this, honestly, this feels like a reasonable board for Mudrid to just, like, hop in here. The problem is, there's still Orin in the back, and that Yukama will still be a mighty force to deal with there. I do not think you bring in Ociara here, and I think that Hedgen is still a little too intimidating, even at low stamina, for Barnshee to come in. You could gamble that, though. I think there's reasonable... This is a reasonable space for Barnshee to come in because Trot's Hedgen is so low on stamina. It's just that we still have the Mudrids on either side kind of threatening things out a bit. It's a little spooky. We do see the Barnshee hit the board, though. So this is just probably looking to get a nice, fat, and juicy Hypoxia probably onto this Ouroboros. The high base special defense means this is likely to still need to be a 2KO, but it is not something you want to be taking willy-nilly. Like, that's going to be a rough time, and Trot is going to want to conserve his only mental synergy for his Mudrid, given that's still going to be incredibly valuable into a lot of the things on Axolotus' side, whether it's just hitting for super effective damage at 3 prio, or just getting that sleep off on the enemy Mudrid, perhaps. Like, depending on how that speed tie goes there, that could be deeply important. So I feel like you probably want to conserve your Doro on this one. Maybe just bait that out. Problem is, the only things that want to bait that out are things that really don't want to come in on a Doro, or alternately the thing you're actually trying to use to win this game. Sorry about that yawn there, folks. Yeah, though, looking at this, I think that Axolotus is pretty clear to just charge into that spot. Trot's still likely to just try to peck things to death here, but we do see the Ouroboros swap out. It is the Yukama. The Yukama's still going to be taking some damage, but we know that Yukamas can be built pretty chunky. The Adoro actually bounces, opting to conserve that, bringing in the Ociara on that spot, meaning Cerbas is online for the next turn. The Hellfire comes down at a significant, well, yeah, a significant overexertion, given it takes out the Hedgen. That's pretty significant. And the Hypoxia does indeed come down, taking over half of this Barnshee stamina. So it clearly, that's a lot of stamina for that. It is just enough, thanks to what appears to be, we haven't actually seen that item, and it wasn't, okay, I thought that was 43% for a second. Turns out it was 53%. That's a bit better, but Yukadoro is able to slap back now, potentially. The Tornado is still something that's obviously troublesome, but Serpentio's Wrath does nothing in here. Axolotus knows it, swaps out the Ociara for the Mudrid. The Mudrid has hit the board into a very dangerous potential opposing field. The Tornado comes down and it takes out the Yukama before it is able to act. One of the most immediate counters to the Mudrid has been taken off the field, and it is gently drubbed by Trotter's Adoro in the back as well. So now we have a Mudrid with no hold versus a Mudrid with hold and a Barnshee with no hold. Like, the Barnshee can't act here, but Axolotus is up 4-2 and is genuinely looking like a significant threat. As the Ouroboros hits the board again, we are looking at a Synergy Master Crystal Deluge charging in on this, except the Crystal Dust does come down, meaning there is no synergy now, there is no sleep. If this is going into the Mudrid to try to deal with that, then it is not going to be doing very much damage. It's going to isolate it, but it is not going to get anything significant off to that in return. And in the meantime, the Inner Spirit comes charging into this Mudrid. I had forgotten how much hold was up onto the Ouroboros, and so did Axolotus. Was probably expecting more than that. Inner Spirit coming out like a mighty force indeed. One of the best coverage options available to Ouroboros. That whopping base 170 power, I believe. It is a truly massive move. Now, the downside here is there is no way to sleep the Ociara. The isolated actually sucks for Trot here. And I don't see a way for him to get out of this outside of just like praying with crystal dust into the Barnshe slot. Like, that is really his only out. Adoraboros can and will knife fight Chihiro, but like, yeah, you don't live this. He lives it! Okay, that is an amazing spread. The umbrella coming in clutch as he is actually able to get a crystal dust off alongside an Aemonip and actually manages to take down the Barnshe with the Mudred barely living an aquatic whirlwind. I mean, I've already talked up the OCR at this point, but that was just not something I ever expect to see from a Mudred. Mudreds are notoriously frail. While they do pack a pretty decent punch and like pretty high base HP, their defenses are abysmal, and that's why I was so astonished by that. The Umbrella, combined with a good special defense investment in HP, clinched that out for Trotter at the last possible moment. The Crystal Deluge synergy winning him in the end game. Well played to you. So with that, we have a small amount of time while our opponents get into their next game. I did not expect that outcome whatsoever. Very well played. Yeah, just goes to show precisely the degree to which something can turn based on a single damage calc. That's definitely something that it looks like Trot had prepared for building in Mudred, and being able to survive an aquatic whirlwind. I haven't done those calcs. That's genuinely not something I had anticipated a Mudred to be able to do. So that's really cool to see. So, looks like we're just getting into our second game. And here we are. One of my questions is, are those bands going to actually hold in the same way? We see the Nature Koish is just out of here. Not allowed that again. The Barnshe is also out of here. So the Volfi is on the table. The Kinu is on the table still. So we see the Volfi get first picked into Trot's team. That's still very powerful here. And we see Adoro Calibus as the response. That is a lot of toxic damage staring Volfi in the face, and also that is no wins on Axolotus' side there. So this could be a Kinu Volfi. No, we see Adoro Volfi. This makes a certain amount of sense. That's an Energy Manip synergy into Trot. That's going to be pretty nasty, and the exhaust is not something you want to deal with. This is one of the things that Trot was banning out last game, but he's swapped it up this time. Doesn't want to deal with the Barnshe. Makes a lot of sense. That Barnshe caused him a lot of grief. We see the Osiara as the second ban. He has left the Kinu on the board there, as the Hedgen is the second ban out of Axolotus. This is a completely different set of bans, too. The Hedgen obviously still really ruinous into a lot of what Axolotus has. You don't want those plasma beams flying around. You don't want those Hellfires in on a bunch of your attempts, but that's still curious given the fact that he has Volfi here. So that's very surprising, honestly. We see the Mastion and the Yukama picked up, so this means that we do get Lava Wave alongside potentially a Cage user alongside Yukama. That's a lot of really fun things on Trot's side. We see the Fire Koish Kinu picked up and a Mudred. This is looking to be an absolute slugfest in our second game between two very equally paced players in terms of their team's momentums. I'm really stoked to see how this second game goes. So, right. As we previously assessed, Trot has a pretty advantageous board into Volfi here. Question is it so advantageous against Adoro? Can't really slap fight into Adoro effectively, especially early on. There's no real way to ensure that, and he kind of wants to make sure the Volfi is down before he brings Mudred onto the field. Once that Volfi is down, this game's going to turn on a dime, though. So we see the Volfi get the exhaust off, gets a lot of good damage in there alongside the exhaust. The exhaust and the trap, those things are going to generally be very valuable. As we also see a beta go into Skull, getting it down to almost 55%. The Toxic Ink, however, combined with the Beta Burst, brings that Volfi down under 40%. It's not going to be able to live another set of these. So the question is, does Axolotus keep that in? I think that's a terrible idea. I think this is a perfect Kinu swap, or alternately trying to get that Mudred in there, reading another Toxic attack and another Mental attack, both of which Mudred resists like a champ. If we see like a double swap Mudred into Kinu, I would be 100% on board with that, because I do not expect violence into the Adoraboros slot on Axolotus. In the meantime, on Trot's side, I don't think you really need to change your position here. You literally can't with Calibus, but you could try to strangle in case you're predicting a swap. which honestly is never a bad idea. But the Ouroboros could just keep on going and swinging. Like, most of the things that do generally want to, like, come into this are still things that have to fear the might of Inner Spirit. So it's not exactly like they're going to get a free ride. So the Mudrid does come in on that spot. The Ouroboros does bounce from that spot as we see his own Mudrid hit the field instead. The Beta Burst comes down into the Calibus spot again, bringing it down to roughly 33% as the Toxic Ink does go down onto the Mudrid, which eats it like a champ. Only takes one toxic, only one poison tick as well. Resistant really coming in clutch there. One of the good defensive tools of Mudrid. It's a really like effective swap in to toxic hits. Like, you still take the extra hit from Toxic Ink and that sucks, but they eat wastewaters like you wouldn't believe. So this is kind of a spooky turn, I think, for Trotter, actually, because you don't really want this double synergy staring you in the face. I think you wanted your Calibus to die at this point, and it just hasn't. Yeah, we actually see another swap from Trot as he brings the Ouroboros back in again. But the problem is that Ouroboros just going to be eating a Crystal Deluge. No, it lands on the Calibus instead, removing its final turn of Trapped, but applying a ton of sleep as the Inner Spirit comes down like a mighty force. A good debate coming out from Trot as the Inner Spirit kind of whiffs into Ouroboros, whose double screen, high special defense, and good typing means it takes only 12% from that attack. That's nothing out of a super high base power, high stamina costed move. Very good defensive swap from Trot. The question is now, how does he try to get this game back on the front foot? Because he's starting to lose his pace here. I don't feel like he's effectively traded yet. It's not necessarily been the most massive of blows in this second game, but like, he's got a ton of ammunition. He's got one hold up on his Mudrid. That's one really cool thing that he has in the back. The fact that he got what effectively was a good bit of hold on Mudrid, fantastic there. So the Mudrid swaps out for the Kinu. We do finally see the Kinu come into the Adora, which is actually pretty nightmarish. Ooh, is this a Psycholab turn? Potentially anticipating a swap on this side? I think it is! Okay, so we see the Ouroboros staying on this side. The Yukama comes in as well, as Inner Spirit lands instead into the Kinu spot. Oh no, speaking of whiffs, that is similarly a dragon charging into a melee that doesn't care, and it is a Psychic Collaborator. Okay, Axolotus is winning my heart right now. That's just adorable to see. You never see this, as Naren still eats it like an absolute champ, once again identifying the high special defense of Ouroboros and that double screen. But that being said, that was a ton of damage coming out from Axolotus' side. Like, that's the Ouroboros down from nearly full. That was 88% down to 43%. That's 45% right there. That was a huge amount of damage to an Ouroboros from a mental attack. Still though, my next question is this the board state that Trot actually wants? And my answer is begrudgingly no. Like, what does Yukama really do into this? It can't really hit the Kinu, it can't really hit the Adoro, it can kind of flap at them, but this isn't really what you want. He's not getting the hold on the things that he wants. I feel like he's still looking to get into the right state to deal with Axolotus, but Axolotus is reacting to Trot really well right now, which is always fun to see. I'll admit, he's won me over a bit with that Psychic Collaborator play. That's a fantastic animation that we rarely get to see. It's an often maligned move in the competitive environment due to the fact that it's very restrictive in how it gets set up, right? And also its damage, as we saw, for what you need to set it up, unless you're getting that double Synergy Master off, that 56% can be, like, unless you get that, it can be just a little underwhelming is all. So we see a Virulent Gust, which gets eaten by the Team Elusive, come down. That was an interesting concept, as the Blizzard slaps out as well, but due to the high special defense of Ouroboros, it's kind of able to take that. The Team Elusive Volphy, once again, just being a really frustrating swap-in for Trot as well, doesn't really have an effective answer to that. He can, however, still Aquatic Whirlwind into that spot, and the only thing that eats it is the Kinu. Nothing else wants to come into that, and a Virulent Gust coming down on this board again is pretty brutal. My only problem with that is I don't think it KOs the Kinu, meaning another Psychic Collab might actually just take down your boy before it's able to do things again. Trot appears to recognize this as he swaps in the Calibus, attempting to eat some hits. The Aquatic Whirlwind does come down, catching the Volphy out. Okay, so that is that down. Is this gonna be met with retaliation from Axolotus this turn? What's this Ouroboros doing? It does hit with the Virulent Gust. It goes into Orin the Yukama here, but it does not take it below 50%. That is not a 2 KO. Trot, he's worming it in there. He's had to thread the needle, but he did manage to get first blood there. And swapping in a Mudrid onto this board just feels a bit awkward. Like, you're staring... Okay, admittedly, these are two very battle-worn waters, but that's a synergy water cannon staring you in the face. That's generally what we identify in the biz as not good. Like, one thing that is on the side of Axolotus is the fact that Mudrid is fast. The problem is, I don't believe it still has Crystal Deluge up. It, like, deluged last time, and then it bounced. Meaning that it needs something to do this turn, unless it's just, like, Crystal dusting into Calibus and eating a water cannon, which just feels like a really bad trade. But, outside of that, the Mudrid, okay, so it was a fake out. This makes more sense as the Kinu hops in again to get another juicy Psycholab off. Okay, so this also gets another protector buff onto Kinu, onto Adoro. That's always something we like to see. As the water cannon does go down into the Kinu, it's going to do a significant amount of damage because we also get those 2 poison ticks onto there. That's 12.5% plus 12.5%. That's 25% free, like, true damage onto Kinu there, which is always a valuable thing. But the problem is it's not taking Kinu out this turn. We actually wound up seeing a Virulent Gust, though. It's not what I expected there at all. Because, like, you know, you had the Psycholab again. You could have just gone for that Yukama, knowing that you destroy everything else. But, now we have the option for the Crystal Deluge to come in, which is kind of monstrous. And that's, as people are identifying, kind of a terrifying spot for Axolotus right now. Like, all you do is okay, so one read Trot has to do is what does he think is staying in? The Ouroboros is set up at this point. It's got its double screen. It's got 2 defensive bonuses. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere, and it dead-ass rested into this board previously. I don't know whether it's going to be doing that again. But at the same time, it has no stamina. It's 8.2%. There's nothing you can do with that. And I believe it overexerted. And in the meantime, like, there's no synergy for Koish here, so I don't really see a way for the Koish to come in and, like, get... If you're Axolotus, you want the Deluge to hit the Koish, right? So anticipating the Kinu is where Trot wants to hit. That's what gets swapped out for. We see the Fire Koish land on that spot. We see a Mastion appear on that side as the double swap appears to be anticipated. The rare and zesty Mastion coming in, potentially trying to snag a cage as the Crystal Dust lands into the Kinu spot instead, which still does a pretty significant amount of damage to Guava there, actually. Like, that's not like something to disrespect there. Crystal Dust is not your highest damaging technique, and it's very stamina efficient at 11 stamina, so getting a Koish down to 83% is nothing. It's no small feat. That's pretty reasonable. Like, it's a frail boy. You want to get every bit of damage into there. So we do see the Lava Wave synergy come down as the Dust Vortex also comes down into the... Oh, dear. Into the Adoro spot there. Which alongside the water cannon means that we do see... Sorry, that was the Mudrid spot. What am I talking about? We do see the lava wave into the Mudrid. That seal being... That seized could be very interesting there. If nothing else... Okay, so we see that that's a iron coating. Removing the iron coating... It's probably not too valuable for one turn, given the Dust Vortex whiffed, and we're likely to see a swap into a Crystal Deluge this turn, but the problem is that Mudrid can't stay there. This Yukama is almost guaranteed to be faster. And, like, man, it's just going to be a hard time. So, as we continue to move into this, what else do we got here? The Fire Koish is still likely to want to stay in on this field, if I'm perfectly honest. It's perfectly fine just throwing a water cannon at this Mastion. And, yeah, just looks like it's going to be a hard time. Let's see. The Ouroboros does indeed come in, but not on the spot that we were expecting, as the water cannon synergy is instead what's picked this time. So if this water cannon goes into the wrong spot, which it does, the Aquatic Whirlwind whiffs into the Ouroboros. The water cannon will be double synergy master boosted, but going into the Yukama, additionally not what I expected, if I'm honest. That was, like, free and open for the Mastion. If that had happened into the Mastion, that would have been gorgeous to see. But in the meantime, we also see the Flaming Meteorite land on the Fire Koish. Equally curious. Perhaps we were seeing a read of another Kinu swap into there, or the Mudrid. It just feels like both of those were perhaps missed out on. Just doesn't feel like the strongest thing there. So, Trot's side, down 2 Tems, but looking to be still in a very strong position, given the fact that their Mudrid is nearing sweep potential. The problem is, there's a Fire Koish standing between him and victory. How does he get out of that? He's lost 2 of his best tools to get out of that because he didn't wind up targeting it with those, but that's how it goes. He still has the Mastion. Mastion can't really hit into that very effectively at all whatsoever. Needs to hit the other spots. But that's fine. You can hit the other spots. Is he relying on a Dust Vortex? Or is he relying on getting the Crystal Deluge off into the Fire Koish spot before the Fire Koish is able to do anything? Either of those could work here, but it's like, how do you do that? Because my issue with this is, like, if you do that, and he just swaps in Mudrid there, like, yeah, he loses the Mudrid, but then you probably lose the game, because the Adoraboros at this point has Inner Spirit up as well. If you leave the Fire Koish in, since Mudrid's at full health, and we saw it's got Umbrella, it's likely able to eat 1 Aquatic Whirlwind. Sorry, 1 Water Cannon off of this. So, 1 Water Cannon is probably not going to be the hardest thing in the world. That should be fine. But it's something you definitely want to be careful of as you're taking all of this damage. But this does mean that a double in on the Adoro spot's basically unpunishable by Axolotus here. Like, there's a lot that Trot can mitigate in terms of damage just by swapping in Adoraboros and hitting hard into that Adoro spot. Be that as it may, we've still yet to see this. For all I know, the +2 special defense there into the Adoro spot means that this little champ can just stay there for the rest of the game, entirely unconcerned by principles surrounding it. And being able to slap back with that Inner Spirit, not afraid of that sleep, because it's a mental and it's immune to that sort of stuff, means that, yeah, no, you could very easily find this in a sort of table flip scenario where Trot tries to deluge into a victory here and just gets Inner Spirited in his face, being left with just a Mastion, an Adoro, and a Dream, which feels like a pretty rough time. With this in mind, I think it's undeniable that Trot has to play fast and loose here. He kind of has to go for this, and it's what he goes for. We see the Adoraboros come out. We see the Crystal Deluge come into the Adoraboros. It does not KO. The Inner Spirit is threatening here. Does it come down? We see the Water Cannon soften up the Mudrid, but if that's the Inner Spirit, then this doesn't matter. Oh my goodness. Yep, no, that is one dead bunny. Yeah, no, that's we've seen the mighty force that can be. That +2 special defense really coming into his own. Trot potentially regretting banning, not banning that Kinu, as we're now left in a situation where he's trying to face down a Fire Koish with a Mastion. Too many things with an Adoro. We have a Mudrid still on this board. The Mudrid and the Kinu will die if they're looked at funny by the Mastion, but the problem is Axolotus isn't going to give him that chance. The Water Cannon comes down again on the Mastion. It does bring it down to 45%, but the Fire Koish overexerts, which is very important. The Fire Koish does go down to the Virulent Gust. And the Beta Burst comes down. As it turns out, Trot's Adoro does outspeed even outside of Speed Arrow. Very good thing to note. And surviving both of those attacks could very well mean a fantastic thing for Trot here, but there's still that Mudrid in the back that he never took care of. Inner Spirit's his only prio, and that's not going to be able to take this down. He can't get synergy for the Lava Wave, which is really problems, because now this Mudrid does threaten an outspeed with either of his attacks. At this point, he could just Crystal Dust this turn to take down the Mastion, then Crystal Deluge the next turn, and the game just sort of falls over on his side. If Trot's able, I feel like I just said this, but if Trot can take down this next Tem, he basically has the game. The Mudrid being able to come in on the free KO from the Fire Koish there feels real rough given how much damage went into that Mastion. It's just like, if this Mastion could live something, or be guaranteed to outspeed, that would be so meaningful here. I don't believe it can, and that's going to be really rough for Trot, right? Like, we still have a Kinu in the back. The Kinu in the back's pretty irrelevant at this point. It'll come in for a final Psycholab, maybe, if it's possible. I expect the Mudrid to be targeted first. Crystal Deluge totally KOs this Adoro from here. I don't see an Adoro living at 43% from a high base power special attack from a Mudrid like that. As we do see the Crystal Dust go down into the Mastion. Oh boy, if that goes down, right, so if this is an Inner Spirit, this may, yeah, okay, the Inner Spirit does outspeed. We saw it outsped before. It's kind of a nightmare. The problem is, we come back down to what I said earlier, which is that Cyclab does outspeed, but there is one other thing here, which is that we know that Trotzadoro outspeeds, and that it has priority in energy manipulation, and that it doesn't matter how many special defense buffs you get when you're at 3.6%. I think this is still actually a win for Trot because of the way that went down last turn. I feel like you had to actually target the Adoro first and then just plink down the Mastion with what you had left. That last little bit there, that last turn from Axolotus looks like it turned out to be a misplay. A deeply unfortunate thing to see. As it's all down to a Kinu and an Adoraboros, and Virulent Gust cleans up that Kinu in a single turn. Trot takes the second game. I was gonna say, it would take a miracle or some kind of a massive special attack stat for that to in any way hope to out damage, as Trot seals it with a Virulent Gust. Well played to Trot, well played to Axolotus inside that series of games here. With that, I'd like to thank everybody that stopped by to watch. I appreciate you all. You're fantastic people. Don't forget to stay tuned. In roughly 12 hours or so, on the morrow, we will see Wiki Colonel face off against Srizen in our next slot. So don't forget to check us out. In the meantime, we will be signing off here. We have no more matches until that time, but do stay tuned. We've got a lot more to show you. Thursday, we have just a couple matches scheduled in terms of both Srizen versus Wiki Colonel and J-Dragon versus Luke Wheel later on, but Friday is absolutely action-packed. We have everything from Neko Blocky versus Wiki Colonel, Tsubaki-chan versus Neko Blocky, Rishi versus SM Fid in the same slot, so you get two separate juicy matches to look at during that. Swordy Rum versus Zukli, J-Dragon versus Swordy Rum, and Trot versus Gold all on the same day. A massive smorgasbord of content for you to peruse and enjoy at your leisure once we get that out there for you. In the meantime, though, I'm going to have to sign off. I've been Quarter, and have a lovely evening.